Never has a system of thought so dominated an epoch as the philosophy of Immanuel Kant dominated the thoughts of the 19th century. That is what Will Durant wrote about Kant in The Story of Philosophy in Chapter 6, page 237. It is without a doubt that we're talking about a landmark in the history of philosophy. He was held in high esteem by Nietzsche and was lauded by Schopenhauer, who considered Kant's Critique of Pure Reason as the best and most important written text in German. Schopenhauer considered reading the Critique of Pure Reason as a prerequisite to any attempt at studying philosophy, although Schopenhauer did not agree with Kant on a number of things. In this video, we'll try to look into Kant's ideas on what we can really know of the world and how accurate our knowledge of the intelligible world is. But first, let's look at the two schools of thoughts that preceded Kant and influenced him: Rationalism and Empiricism. Rationalists argue that the mind is capable of knowing everything about the world, and that experience through its senses cannot by any means be counted on to know anything. Senses are deceptive. We look at the moon and perceive it as a small circle, while in reality it's huge. The most prominent rationalists are Descartes, Leibniz, Spinoza, and many other philosophers. They compared the knowledge we get through mathematics, for example, to the knowledge we get through experience. When you study circles, their radiuses and diameters, you're never wrong. But when you look at the sun or the moon, you perceive them as smaller than they really are. This proves that it is through the mind and thanks to the mind that we access reality. Rationalists affirm that the mind is pre-equipped with a priori ideas that do not need any senses or experience. For example, everybody knows that the part is less than the whole, and that the whole is more than the parts. Everybody knows that 1 + 1 = 2. Rationalism was liked by priests and all theists because it was used as an argument for the existence of God, because it is the Creator who puts these ideas in humans' minds. At the opposing spectrum is empiricism, represented by Locke. John Locke says that there's nothing in the human mind. The human comes to the world with a blank slate. He argued that there are primitive tribes that do not know anything about logic, ethics, or mathematics. He says that children and primitive tribes don't know anything. If you give a child sweets and rocks, the child will try to put the sweets and the rocks in his or her mouth. Even knowledge of God, which was considered by most rationalists and all theists as a proof of the pre-equipped mind, was not true. Locke pointed that primitive tribes knew nothing of God. He furthered that even people in the civilized world had different and opposing ideas of the concept of God. He said that if knowledge of God was pre-existing in the mind, it'll be the same in everybody's mind, which is not the case. Then how do we know what we know if our minds do not come equipped with anything? Locke stated that it is experience that permits us to know what we know, and that there are two types of experiences. There's an external experience we access through our senses, and there's an internal experience we conduct internally to process the data we gather from the external experience. He said that even mathematics are derived from conclusions from what we come to know through experience. He said that there is no a priori knowledge. Our sense of morality is also shaped by experience. Enter the radical empiricism of Berkeley. Berkeley asserts that there is nothing but experience. This doesn't seem radical so far, but wait for it. He argued that without senses there is no reality. For example, what is sugar? It's something that looks a certain way and tastes a certain way. Imagine your senses were disabled and you couldn't see sugar as this powder and you couldn't taste it. The moment you can't experience anything as something, it stops being that thing. Berkeley's radicalism resides in how he denies reality outside experience. Kant's Copernican Revolution. Kant's theory of how we come to know things is often compared to the Copernican Revolution, which marked a radical shift from considering the Earth as the centre of the universe to the conception of the Sun as the centre. Kant's position is a reconciliation between the role of the mind and the role of experience. Before Kant, there was the idea that the mind was already endowed with all the realities of the world, rationalism, or the idea that the world was full of realities and that the human could access them through sensory experience, empiricism. Kant reversed both understandings. He proposed that the mind bends the objects of the world to humans' mode of cognition. This position is a little close to Berkeley, but the difference is that Berkeley argued that without experience there is nothing. There is no thing in itself. If humans' abilities to touch, to see and to taste were disabled, there wouldn't be any sugar, because humans would not be able to experience this sugar. Kant rejected that and said that there must be a thing in itself, but that we are unable to know this thing in itself because we are not equipped with the tools to do so, and this thing in itself is what Kant calls the noumenon. What we can perceive and understand is the phenomenon and not the noumenon. The phenomenon is how we experience the thing in itself. The reality of what sugar is something we can never know. Kant rejected both empiricism and rationalism. He said that the problem with all rationalists, starting from Plato to Kant's contemporaries, was that they relied on the mind, but they did not question what the mind is capable and incapable of. The mind is certainly a powerful tool. It can generate novel ideas, it can draw conclusions, and it is equipped with innate intuitions. But the mind is not designed to grasp the metaphysical, and when the mind is used to understand the metaphysical, it fails. This is why people come up with superstitions and contradictions. Kant maintains that the metaphysical is completely inaccessible to us, and that the noumenon, the thing in itself, is inaccessible to us as well. Time and place. Kant argues that time and place are not constituents of the realities of things. Time and place are a priori intuitions that the mind uses to understand things. The conception of anything places it in a place. Place exists a priori in the mind. The mind can think of an empty space without anything in it, but it can't think of anything without placing it in a place. There are many problems that arise when you consider time and place as real. For example, if you consider place as a reality, the mind can argue for the possibility that that place can be divided infinitely, and at the same time the mind can also argue for the possibility that place cannot be divided infinitely. Both positions can be defended by the mind, and this is contradictory. I refer you to Zeno's paradox of motion. Time. With regard to time, the mind would always ask the question, when did time start? And even if it started at a point, what was before that point? Wasn't there any time before that point? What solves all these problems is Kant's idea that time and place do not exist in reality, but they're only a priori intuitions that the mind uses to make sense of the world. Now, Kant presents very interesting ideas to refute the existence of time and place as realities in the world, and it'll be fun to discuss them, either in the comments section or in a separate video. Now, this video has reached its end. Until we meet again, have a great day.